Welcome back to the world of General Hospital, where secrets are currency, alliances shift like sand, and one impulsive suggestion can upend lives in an instant. What begins as a desperate ploy to untangle a blackmail scheme soon spirals into a game of psychological warfare, manipulation, and deeply buried truths. As Ava, Alexis, Kristina, Cody, Jason, Sunny, and Britt find their lives increasingly entwined, no one is safe from the consequences of their choices. The trouble began with a whisper, a dangerous secret threatening to rise to the surface. Ava stood at the edge of her world, watching it tilt once again toward chaos. She had never been one to shy away from power or revenge, but the latest threat, JIC, an anonymous figure behind a string of targeted blackmail plots, had shaken even her. The threats were precise, emotionally surgical, and dangerously timed. And whoever JIC was, they had something very personal on Ava. Something she couldn't afford to let surface. But she had a solution, or so she claimed. A cold, calculated solution she was ready to deliver to Alexis, if Alexis had the nerve to carry it through. Alexis, no stranger to playing chess with the devil, had grown tired of being one of JIC's pawns. Her family, her work, and her name had all been dragged into the shadows by this faceless tormentor. So when Ava approached her with an offer, one that promised the total eradication of JIC's hold, Alexis listened. But the solution Ava presented was unorthodox at best and dangerous at worst. It wasn't about hacking JIC's network or uncovering their real identity. Ava wanted to use misdirection, psychological pressure, and seduction to force JIC out of hiding, make them overplay their hand, and reveal themselves. Alexis would be the one to initiate a legal diversion, drawing JIC's attention toward a fabricated threat, while Ava orchestrated something far more provocative. That's where Kristina came in, unknowingly stepping into the eye of a storm. Kristina had been trying to stay focused on her foundation, her father's shadow looming larger now than ever. She was drawn into the mess when Ava, indirectly, became part of a plan that required someone to manipulate the manipulator. The only person Kristina trusted enough, and had just enough moral ambiguity to pull it off, was Cody. Kristina didn't want to ask, but the pressure on Alexis and the threat to their family left her little choice. Cody had recently proven himself resourceful and unpredictable, and perhaps his past as a con artist made him uniquely suited to this particular deception. Kristina approached him with caution but offered a deal she knew he couldn't ignore, a generous sum of money to seduce Ava and keep her distracted long enough for Alexis to pull off the diversion and Ava to tighten the trap. The stakes were high, and the emotional cost would be even higher. Cody hesitated, not because he lacked the skills, but because he knew Ava wasn't easily fooled, and perhaps, deep down, he didn't want to be the one who finally broke her in a way that couldn't be fixed. But Kristina insisted, cloaking her desperation in logic and strategy. She made it sound like a mission, but it was far more personal than that. She needed to protect Alexis and stop JIC, even if it meant dragging Ava into emotional ruin. Ava, for her part, knew something was off. She wasn't naive, nor was she blind to Cody's sudden interest. His flirtations were sharp, his timing too perfect, and his eyes seemed to carry questions he never voiced. But Ava played along, not because she believed him, but because she wanted to see who would break first. She was gathering clues, watching Kristina from afar, and sensing Alexis's increased anxiety. JIC hadn't struck again in days, which meant something was working, or something worse was coming. Still, Ava had her own reasons for letting the seduction unfold. She was no longer trying to just escape JIC's hold. She wanted to flip the board entirely, expose every manipulator, and walk away the winner. And Cody, whether he knew it or not, was her newest piece. Meanwhile, across town, Jason found himself in the thick of a different emotional storm. For weeks, he had been working silently, trying to untangle the layers of misdirection surrounding Britt's disappearance. The grief had given way to suspicion, and Jason, never one to let sleeping dogs lie, had found too many inconsistencies in the story of her death. Then came the message, a voice, a signal, a whisper that sounded unmistakably like her. That one detail shattered the fragile détente he'd formed with Sunny, who had been growing uneasy with Jason's obsession. But Jason wasn't wrong. Britt was alive, or at least someone wanted him to think she was. Jason laid it all out for Sunny in a private meeting, the kind where trust was the only currency. He explained the anomalies in the reports, the unexplained transfer of Britt's medical files, the intercepted communication laced with a code only she would know. Sunny listened, his face unmoving, but his silence spoke volumes. If Britt was alive, it meant someone had gone to extreme lengths to hide her, and not just from Jason. It meant she might have been part of something much bigger. And worse, it meant someone in their inner circle could be orchestrating the cover-up. Jason's revelation came at a dangerous time. With Ava enacting her plan to flush out JIC, and Cody entangling himself emotionally in a game of deceit, the landscape of Port Charles was becoming increasingly volatile. Sunny was left with a choice: back Jason, knowing it could ignite a war with whoever was holding Britt, or pull him back and risk losing her forever. But Jason wasn't waiting. He was ready to confront the shadows, no matter where they led. He warned Sunny that this went beyond grief, beyond closure. Britt had known something. Something explosive, and Jason intended to uncover it. Back at Alexis's office, the trap for JIC was nearly set. Legal filings had been prepared, pointing to a new investigation that appeared to threaten JIC's real identity. The bait was convincing, and Ava ensured the rumor mill was spinning fast enough to rattle whoever was watching. Kristina, however, was beginning to unravel. She had seen the way Cody looked at Ava, not with manipulation, but confusion, even longing. She wasn't just afraid the plan would fail. She was afraid it would succeed too well, and she would lose Cody to the very woman she had weaponized him against. The guilt simmered, especially as Ava grew more vulnerable in her connection with Cody. A connection that might have started as fiction but now teetered on something painfully real. The climax came in the form of an intercepted message. Someone claiming to be JIC responded to the bait, but they didn't panic. They laughed. They warned Ava, Alexis, and Kristina that they had miscalculated. That they hadn't been watching JIC. JIC had been watching them. Cody's movements had been tracked. Alexis's legal filings were read before they were submitted. Ava's own phone had been cloned. It wasn't a game of chess anymore. It was a hostage situation, emotionally, psychologically, and now perhaps physically. Ava was left shaken, not because she feared being exposed, but because for the first time, she didn't know who was playing her. The fallout was instant. Alexis found herself publicly implicated in a fraudulent legal maneuver. Kristina's foundation received a threatening anonymous donation, along with a chilling message etched into the transfer record: "You paid him to lie. Now I'll pay to destroy you." Cody vanished. Ava collapsed. And Jason? Jason received a final voice message from Britt. Just one word: run. In the weeks that followed, the lines between enemy and ally blurred. Jason intensified his search for Britt, believing she was the key to unraveling JIC's full identity. Sunny began quietly investigating his own team, suspecting the betrayal went deeper than expected. Ava, bruised but not broken, demanded answers from Alexis, only to learn that JIC's connection to the legal world might trace back to someone from Alexis's past, someone she had once defended. Kristina withdrew, unsure if she had destroyed Ava or saved her. And Cody, wherever he was, had either gone into hiding, or had been silenced. As Port Charles reels from the fallout, one thing is clear: JIC was never one person. It was a machine, a network, a virus fed by secrets and guilt. Ava's suggestion to Alexis may have begun this chain reaction, but it was everyone's lies that gave it life. And now, as Jason closes in on the last thread connecting Britt to the web, and Sunny begins to suspect that Ava herself may have known more than she ever let on, the next phase of this war begins, not against JIC, but against themselves. And Port Charles may never be the same again.